Blog Talk Radio.
Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And in the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I see aspiring to be free. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Within and without, above and below, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. Without and within, below and above, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I find in tune with the divine. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. For to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat holy angel of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence.
Thank you for joining me tonight on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I am your hostess. The music you were listening to there at the beginning of the show is I Sense Your Presence. It's by Shemshai. And I want to just say welcome to everybody that's joining us tonight. It looks like we have a few new people coming in tonight, and also for those that are returning us and coming back to joining us week after week. I appreciate that. We, here on Activating Compassion, actually what I do with my work is I focus on helping people find and use compassion in their everyday lives. I created the Genesis Clearing Statement, which some of you have experienced on earlier shows that we've done. We've worked with people with that to help them clear things all the way to the very core soul levels, no matter where they originated from. And I've authored 2 books titled Activating Compassion and Activating Compassion, the Workbook. In addition, I have created the Compassion Tour, which is a multi-state nationwide tour, including workshops, retreats, seminars, book signings, and fundraising events. And I did just finish up the 2012 tour about a month ago, and I'm already working on that 2013 tour for you. So you can definitely follow any of the events that will be available to register for on the upcoming Compassion Tour. I haven't quite started putting things in yet, but you can follow it at jessieannnicholsgeorge.eventbrite.com. And there's also an option in there because, as some of you know, I do a lot of fundraisers, and I do 90% goes out to the organizations that I do fundraising for, so it's a huge amount. And if you want to gift and just help out getting me to some of those locations, there is an option there on the Eventbrite page that is for gifting the tour. And here at Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, I look at different ways that compassion exists in our lives. I'm looking at how to remove the blocks and the obstacles, get rid of those frustrations and resistances that we deal with in day-to-day life. And some weeks what we do here is we discuss different aspects of how compassion is in our life, how it affects our life. I like to look at the different areas of compassion. Some weeks I do more exercises and practical implementations. And then other weeks I like to have guests on the show so that you can learn about what their work is, how it's complementing things that are going on, and how that works with compassion. So we have a lot that happens here, and it just varies from week to week. So it's great to have you tune in and get those different experiences as we go. And I see some people coming into our caller queues, which is great. I see some people in the chat room. And tonight, what we have going on is I have Dr. Jean Logan as my guest, and we're going to be looking at how to use signs, symbols, and glyphs in your life. And if you'd like to speak with Jean or myself, you can call in to our live lines at 760-542-4345. And then if you have a question, all you need to do is press 1, and that's going to get you into my caller queue. It's going to pop up a little question mark, and I know that you're waiting to ask a question at that time. And then I'm also going to be watching our chat room because I know some people don't have that ability to call in or they're just able to work with the chat that we have. So I'll also watch that in case there's any questions coming through on the chat area. Now, just a reminder, if you enjoy the show tonight, make certain that you tell your friends, your family, share it with all those significant others like the 2,000 Facebook friends that you have out there, LinkedIn people, Twitter, wherever you want to share it with. We appreciate having everybody come in and listen to it because there's a lot of great information here. And they just use the same link that you use to get into the live show, and they can listen to it at their convenience in the archives. There's no expiration date. It's not going to go away at the end of the weekend, so they can come in at any time and listen to it. And then they can also go to my Activating Compassion page, which is facebook.com/activatingcompassion/notes. And that will have all of the archived shows there. What's going to be kind of fun tonight is that Dr. Logan is going to be kicking off a series of 3 shows that I'm doing here that has got a focus and is incorporating what's happening with us on this bigger universal vibrational level. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard about these are the times of emergence, and we're raising vibrationally. So we've got 3 different aspects here, and there's 3 aspects that go with the raising of that vibration. And one of the first ones has to do with using glyphs and symbols and signs to open up the portals. And another aspect of that development then goes into the actual more of the opening process, more of the emerging and the bringing the energy into activation, so to say. And then that's followed up with having it come out into the open, having it kind of filter out all over into the world and be activated. And I'm going to be using a guest that deals with music and harmonic music for that, just an absolutely beautiful voice. So it's a series of 3 that we have here that's going to be focused on that. Now, as I do with every week, I do like to start off with a message from Yehuda Berg from his book, The 72 Names of God. And as we know, Yehuda is a master Kabbalist and speaks quite fluently on this. This is a big thing for him. And for those that haven't joined us before, what I do is I like to randomly go into this book to find a message that kind of just brings out something for our show, something for us to think about during the week, and to just give us a little concept of opening up our mind and awakening to it. So let's see what we can find here tonight. And for those that haven't heard of Yehuda's work, I love it because it's just simple. You know, it's in our everyday life kind of terms, and those are things that I absolutely love. Now, what I've got for tonight is the name that we're working with tonight is known as Speak Your Mind. And he starts off with a quote here. It's by Harry Truman is the quote, and it says, "I never give them hell. I just tell them the truth, and they think it is hell." So, you know, a lot of factors there. A lot of times we have a hard time hearing the truth. It goes on to say, when you need to speak the truth but find it difficult, utilize this name as soon as your heart starts beating rapidly. Likewise, when you need to be open to harsh truths about yourself, use this name the minute your back gets up. So this is one of those, you know, when we're dealing with things, and I think when we're dealing with, we talk about this ascension or this emergence time, that truth is coming out everywhere. Whether we like it or not, it's coming out. It's happening, and it's not always easy to hear. So this is really great in what we have going on right now. Now, the insight that goes with this is it's difficult to be lovingly truthful with others. When an opportunity arises to confront someone with the truth, we tend to lock up. Our hearts race and our adrenaline pumps at the mere prospect of speaking our mind. Fear of speaking or hearing the truth is the biggest stumbling block we face in our desire to experience genuinely fulfilling, honest, and loving relationships. When we hold something back, that something separates us from the other person. If we're not open to hearing the words of others without reacting or taking them personally, we have distanced ourselves from those individuals. Now, that's a really big point because I talk about that a lot, and we forget that when we're holding back, we're not just hurting ourselves, we're not just kind of keeping something inside of ourselves, but we're actually creating this separation. And when we're separating from other people, we're also separating from God or Spirit or Divine Presence. So that's a very, very important thing. And, you know, when we're not, we have a natural reaction to take things personally. So even when we know it's true, even when we know it's something that we need to work on, we still have that tendency to make it personal. And what we want to do in order to grow and in order to develop is to not take it personally, but to come in and enjoy it for what it has to offer. Take it as that opportunity to grow. Take it as an opportunity to change and be thankful for that message coming to us so we can make an improvement, thinking that that person actually cares enough to let us know so that we can make the changes, so we have the opportunity to develop. Now, Yehuda goes on to say, it's always easier to tell people what they want to hear. It's often more comfortable to agree with someone, even if we disagree in our hearts. And since it can be equally frightening to confront painful truths about our own selves, our friends and family may feel compelled to tell us only what we want to hear. Now, the meditation he gives with this is, when you need to tell the truth, this name brings you courage to open your heart as well as your mouth. When you need to hear the truth, this name brings you strength to open your ears and close your mouth. So it's very important. What we're wanting to do is to focus in on that heart space. So if you have somebody telling you some truth, you want to open to that heart space. You want to open your ears up and really listen to what they're saying in there. Now, the way the name is pronounced for speak your mind is Nun Tav He. Okay, that's Nun Tav He. Means speak your mind. Wonderful. So a little bit something here about signs, symbols, and glyphs tonight. They've been an active part of culture and society for probably all of time, okay? They show themselves in almost any time or period of existence. And I'm going to stop here for a second because I've got Emerald Rose typing in our chat room saying, still not used to being alone and this area doesn't help. And goes on to say, yes, you have to be willing to receive healing and you should try finding a Reiki group in your area. Well, Reiki is definitely one of those options for healing and when we're breaking through truths. That definitely helps to open our energy and helps create some clearing. And our guest tonight is also, Dr. Logan's also going to help us with a lot of that as well. So these have been a part of our existence, and they've been used as secret languages a lot of times. We think back in different times where the signs, the glyphs, they spoke a whole language or a whole sentence or a whole meaning of something, and they were used to communicate safely in a lot of cultures and as a universal language. So they've been relied on to show us what life was like in previous times and in other places. When we go back and we look at those hieroglyphs from previous cultures and times, and it's the pictures that show us the whole story of what's going on there. They're a foundation from which we have grown, and they are propelling us forward at the same time. So it's very interesting. The signs and the symbols, in some ways, they're timeless, and yet they give us the foundations of the past, and they move us forward simultaneously. They're talked about in probably every religion or philosophy or prophecy, and how many times have we heard that the signs are here? We've heard some of these phrases, right? The signs are here. It's written in the stars. It is written on the temple walls. It is shown in the pictures of sacred spaces. These are all phrases that we commonly use. And Emerald Rose is putting in here also a lot of the Reiki symbols are in the Kabbalah. So this is true. We have a lot of overlap in symbols and signs throughout cultures. Now, signs and symbols, they've been used, the glyphs have been used for a variety of purposes, and they are incorporating almost everything or are incorporated in almost everything around us. We rely a lot on words these days, especially this culture that's kind of the immediate gratification culture, which relies a lot on texting. But our whole world and universe is actually based on symbols, signs, and glyphs. And tonight we're going to be delving into this topic further and looking at what does that mean during these times of emergence. Why are these things important? What can they do to help us? And in compassion, and how this ties into compassion, is that we use these very things to share with others. We use them to create relationship with others and to obtain guidance and understanding. So our gestures are symbolic of how healthy and attuned we are in our DNA, for example. The more health and attunement we have going on, the more we resonate at a higher vibration, and that allows us to exist in a compassionate space. And it also affects our emotions in a way that allows us to be giving, caring, sharing, and working with others. So it's important because as they're raising our vibration, that's allowing us to operate from a compassionate place. Now, we use common symbols such as candlelight and rose petals to indicate a romantic mood. Corporate executives will wear red power ties to have power during their meetings. Churches have stained glass windows, and they share the stories and messages that remind us to lead a compassionate and loving life. Now, tonight we're going to be looking again at those signs, symbols, and glyphs in yet another light and learn of their value and place in these current times. Now, before I bring on our guest tonight, we're going to take a short break here. I've got a song called Be Here Now. It's by Shimshai. And when we come back from that, I'm going to bring on Dr. Jean Logan, and she's going to be sharing with us her work in signs, symbols, and glyphs.
You don't have to be this and you don't have to be that now. Just be for eternity, yeah. You don't have to do this and you don't have to do that now. Just do whatever happens to be. You don't have to think this and you don't have to think that now. Don't think, but do it consciously, yeah. You don't have to love this and you don't have to love that now. Just love for eternity, yeah. Paradise, seek to find and rejoice materially. For Zion is all, Zion is ever. Yeah, Zion is here, Zion is now. And Jaja is all, I say Jaja is ever. And Jaja is here, Jaja is now, so be here now. You don't have to be this and you don't have to be that now. Just be for eternity, yeah. You don't have to do this and you don't have to do that now. Just do whatever happens to be. You don't have to think this and you don't have to think that now. Don't think, but do it consciously, yeah. You don't have to love this and you don't have to love that now. Just love for eternity, yeah. Your consciousness, raise the eye level, lift up your consciousness, lift up your awareness to a higher level, lift up your consciousness, and more conscious is the eye, the higher the eye is, and higher is the eye, the closer is the eye to Jah, and more conscious is the eye, the higher higher the eye is, and higher is the eye. The closer is the eye to Jah. And Jah is all I say, Jah is ever. Jah is here, Jah is now. Zion is all, and Zion is ever. And I am right here, I am right now. So be here now. You don't have to be this and you don't have to be that now. Just be for eternity, yeah. You don't have to do this and you don't have to do that now. Just do whatever happens to be. You don't have to think this and you don't have to think that now. Don't think, but do it consciously, yeah. You don't have to love this and you don't have to love that now. Just love for eternity, yeah. Be here now for eternity. Be here now for eternity, yeah. Be here now for eternity. Be here now for eternity, yeah. Be here now for eternity. Be here now for eternity, yeah. Be here now for eternity. Be here now for eternity, yeah.
Okay, welcome back. You're listening to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. That was Be Here Now by Shem Shai. And we are back here. I'm going to be bringing on our guest, Dr. Jean Logan. She is the author of Unlocking the Power of Glyphs and has also recently released the book, The Sacred Symbols of Light. Dr. Logan is an ordained minister of the Universal Life Church. She has a doctorate in Holistic Nutritional Healing and is a student of many types of energy healing, including Pranic Healing, Body Talk, Reiki, Hover Healing, and Emotional Thought Field Therapy. She is president of Holy Ground Farm Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization that supports the education of children. So thank you again. I'm going to be bringing her on. And again, if you have any questions for her, you can dial in on our line and just press 1. That will get you into the call queue. And Dr. Logan, thank you so much for being here tonight on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour.
Well, thank you for having me here, Jessie.
I know it's kind of late where you are, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us and give us your time tonight. Let's start off and have you share with us. I know you've got a lot going on both with your books and with Holy Ground Farm Incorporated. Talk to us a little bit about how you got to where you are. Tell us about your journey.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, first of all, how I got started with these glyphs. I've always been fascinated with the idea of glyphs, but I didn't know why. And so one day I received an email from someone, and there was a glyph in the email. And the glyph was looked like a picture of a centipede with a little squiggly line around it. So I printed out the email, and the glyph was about, 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall, and I cut it out, and it said that this glyph would remove parasites that hold fear in our body. And it went on and said, use with integrity, and so I thought, well, use with integrity, but how? And then I was sitting there holding the glyph, and I was either guided or thought, and I put it against my solar plexus. And for those who don't know, the solar plexus is the point right where the rib cage comes up into like an upside-down V. I put it against my solar plexus, and I felt a tremendous commotion going on in my liver. And I thought, oh, my gosh, what is this? And so this went on for a little while, and then it quit. And I thought, well, I don't know what it was, but I think I had it, and I think it's gone. But I thought, whoever has that much power, whoever can create a drawing on a piece of paper that could actually kill parasites in the body, I have that power. We all have that power. So I asked my guides, I said, how do you do that? How does one do that? And they said, you take and create your drawing and decide what it's going to mean, and then you have a ceremony to empower it. And in the ceremony, you invite in all the beings of light that you choose to invite to assist you in empowering it. So I tried a few simple ones, joy, energy, and so forth, and they didn't really have any effect. Then I had a friend call me who had dropped a glass bowl on the floor, and a piece of glass went deep in her foot. She'd gotten the glass out, but now this was 2 weeks later, and it was badly infected, and she did not want to go and get antibiotics, and everything she'd done would not clear up this infection. So I said, Kathy, her name was Kathy, and I said, Kathy, would you be willing to do a little experiment with me? With something called a glyph, and she said, sure. And so I created a glyph to kill bacteria and another one to speed healing, and I emailed them to her. The very next morning, she called and she said, wow. She said, these glyphs are working. She said, the pain is gone, the redness is gone, the swelling is gone. She said, it's actually started to heal. And so then I knew I was on to something. And as I thought about it, I realized the reason I could not create one for joy is because what's keeping us from our joy is all the fear and the negative emotions that we carry inside of us. So I started creating glyphs to remove fear and anger and sadness. And the one, for example, to remove fear, I created the drawing, and then I had a ceremony to empower it, and I invited in Jesus and Buddha and Mary and Saint Germain and asked them to assist me in giving it the power. And when I used that glyph, I felt like a little vacuum cleaner was on my solar plexus, pulling. I could feel stuff coming out of my arms, coming out of my breasts, and I knew that this was the direction to go. At the time, I did not intend to write a book. I never intended to write a book. All I was interested in doing was healing myself to get rid of the depression and the sadness and the anger and resentments that I had carried. But as time went on, I removed more and more of all that stuff that I was holding inside of me, and I became aware. At first, I didn't know how to love anyone. The more I removed, the more resentments and anger and other negative emotions I removed, I didn't know anything other than love. So that's what got me started.
Wow. And I think this is such an interesting thing because we don't think about that connection between the physical and this parasitic aspect in our body and how that affects our emotions. And I'm like you. I've always had this interest and this curiosity and this desire to understand glyphs and signs and symbols. And I, too, have kind of always had that interest, like, well, how can I take this one thing and put it on a piece of paper, and then all of a sudden that's going to change my life, or I'm going to hang this, design in my window, and that's going to change my life. And I think that that's what's so important with these times is these things have been around for a long time, and it's not necessarily something new, but like yourself, there
right.
plenty
They've been
of
around.
people downloading these signs and symbols right now as we're shifting and emerging into this new vibration.
Right. Now, I was guided to have glyphs. One of the things that's also holding us back is we carry a lot of toxic matter in our body and in parasites. So I was guided to create glyphs that would remove these parasites and would remove the toxins in the body. So the book comes with pages of 16 glyphs on a page. The whole book, the first book has 30 glyphs. And you could take a strip of the glyphs for parasites and put them underneath the liver. That's where just under your rib cage on your right side. And parasites are very common in people, more common than we know. And you could actually feel them working, doing their thing. And you could do the same with the glyphs to remove toxic matter in the body. And after using these glyphs repeatedly, in spite of all the mercury fillings and the lead in that we've had in our system, and I have absolutely no heavy metals in my body.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, to me, it's the most powerful and effective, and no side effects. You can just tape these under your liver, under your spleen, and while you're sleeping, it's removing this matter from your body. Or you can put them on the bottoms of your feet because you have so many reflexology points to different organs and glands on the bottom of your feet. They're tremendously powerful.
It really is. And I think, too, the different ways that they come about, that the shapes, the curves of things, and as they're put together, I mean, these are something that no matter what belief system you go into is going to have different signs and symbols and patterns put together that draw certain energies. And the parasites that people do, I feel like people underestimate that. Matter of fact, I had a friend a few years ago when I lived in Arizona, and she was studying with somebody who was very renowned in parasites and clearing parasites. And she specified or specialized specifically in that. And I can't remember how many she said a person standardly has in their body, but she says it's not uncommon for somebody to have something like anywhere from, say, 36 to a few hundred different parasites there.
It's probably very true. The glyphs is also one that removes embarrassment and shame. And shame is a real problem with what that inhibits people sexually, because often the puritanical upbringing we have, that parts of our body are bad and where they're unclean, or when children are caught in examining themselves, they're punished and told that this is bad and shameful. And so later on in life, this can affect them and affect their sexual behavior in marriage. So there's a glyph that removes all of that shame and embarrassment that we've experienced, even things that happened when we were a child. It's very important that we let go of what's holding us back. As we get closer to the shift, we want to clear as much as we can from ourselves as quickly as possible. There's also a glyph that will speed healing. And one woman just wrote me, she said she had a problem with her knee hurting, and she put that glyph on her knee, and she said it was almost miraculous. The pain left, and her knee is no longer bothering her. And I think this is important, to take care of your joints. I think it's very sad that people get to the point where they actually have to have a knee or joint replacement rather than go ahead and take care of your joints. I'm over 70, and I have no problems with any joints whatsoever. And
oh my goodness.
That's the way to do it. Not that I didn't. I had problems, hip joints and elbows and arthritis like others, but the glyphs have completely cleared all that out, completely healed everything. The second book has a lot of glyphs for more of the physical healing of various organs and glands, and even regenerating. And we have to get over that it's not possible to regenerate organs and glands that have been surgically removed. This is a belief we hold, and this can keep us from doing it. If we believe it's not possible, that's right, it's not possible because you don't believe it's possible. If you believe it's possible, the glyphs have the keys and the codes that I was given to help start regenerating the organs that have been removed.
And I know that to be true. I had a friend, again, down from Arizona, ironically, she's out in Florida now, that she had her tonsils removed and she completely regrew her tonsils. And I know for myself, I went through quite a bit of surgery a few years back, and one of the things they did was remove my gallbladder, and I've actually started to regrow another smaller gallbladder in there, and so it does happen. I think certain astrological signs are more prone to that than others, but it's amazing that belief system that we hold, and I talk about this a lot in my work with compassion. Where your mind is at is what you manifest, and if you believe you can't do something, then you may not be able to do it. But it's kind of like somebody who goes in and starts to do Reiki or something, and they don't completely believe it works, and so the results are maybe very minimal. But I think what's fascinating is here you are taking this age-old aspect of signs and symbols, and I think it's great for today's society where we have this kind of immediate gratification aspect that goes on, and it works with so much speed and so much just almost instant, very short time to clear things.
Right. Now, people sometimes ask me, do I have to believe in them for them to work? And I point out that these also work on animals. And the animals don't believe anything. They don't have any thoughts whatsoever. They work very well on animals. And one of the reasons they work well and fast is because the animals do not have any doubt. They don't have any skepticism. And like you were saying, your friend, when they doubt something or they don't believe that it can work, that gets in the way. That puts out a negative energy that can get in the way of our healing. And so I think it's important that people be open about it. And the more positive energy, like you've done with your gallbladder, you did it because you believed it could happen. If you didn't believe it could happen, it wouldn't have worked. But when you believe it happens, that's kind of like the green light, and it's ready to go. Your body says, yes, we can, and you start to heal.
And that potential is a big thing. I think just believing the potential. I think sometimes we don't even have to totally buy into it is going to happen as much as buying into it can happen, and it's a possibility. And when we open to that starting point of it's possible, it has that ability to happen, then we can start to get some of those experiences. They might be on a smaller scale, but we can start to get some of those experiences that then open us up to believe it will happen, and we see enough of the changes that we start to actually know it. And it goes hand in hand, like you say, with kind of clearing those parasites out. And if you have parasites that are creating doubt or inhibitions or these different fears or disbeliefs, then part of what you're doing is you're clearing the parasites out with the doubts, and then that opens you up to clearing the ones with fear, for example.
That's right, and it opens you up more to believing in your divinity, to realizing the power that you have, because all these other things get in the way and fill you with more doubts. But once you get clear, you suddenly years ago, or even 5 years ago, I would not have been able to tell you what my mission was here on Earth, and we all have a mission, and so many of us don't know what it is. But after it removed all these layers, and they are like layers of an onion, the more you keep removing, I suddenly realized I now know exactly why I'm here. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do and who I am. And that is a tremendous feeling to know why you're really here.
And it is huge when you are able to step on that path, when you realize this is the message I've got to get out. This is the piece that is important for me to focus on. And it is. And restoring that DNA, I mean, we underestimate the value of that, I think, because it's like as you remove those things, you reconnect with spirit or divine presence. And in doing that, it's limitless what we can do. You know, we're no longer restricted. It's kind of like somebody who's done without a leg for a while, and then their leg grows back, and all of a sudden they can run and they can jump and they can do these things again.
Right.
And they're not limited anymore.
And I recognize. Yeah, go ahead. I recognize. I recognize part of my mission was to assist children, and that it's interesting you talked about compassion, because all of the profits from the books go to help indigenous children. And right now we are working to raise money to build an orphanage in Ghana, Africa, for 100 children who are living in a situation they don't even have a bathroom in the structure they're in. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we really need the compassion to know that there are others out there who need our help. Absolutely.
And I think, too, the more and more that we can step into that compassionate path, and we're clearing, you know, that also, it cascades. It goes hand in hand. You clear some of the parasites, you can become more compassionate. You become more compassionate, the parasites have a harder time living. It's kind of like a lot of disease in our body. You know, when you get rid of the acidity levels in it, those diseases stop existing in our body.
Right.
And taking this to that other level, like you said, it opens up to that compassion. And as we do that, we start getting the resources and the things that we need in order to go out and help other people in these areas.
Absolutely.
For those of you that aren't completely up on where Jean was going with that, she is the founder of Holy Ground Farm, which is working to help in different cultures, right? Peru is one of those, Nepal.
Right.
Area.
And we're assisting an organization called the Glorious Being Center. They contacted me, and they're the ones building orphanage in Ghana. We're supporting a orphanage in Nepal as well with 19 children in. And then in these countries there are so many abandoned and orphan children. It's unreal. And they're living in streets and cardboard boxes and just eating a food that's taken out of the trash bins of restaurants and stuff. It's unbelievable situations.
Well, and this is true. And I think, you know, sometimes we're worried about certain things going on in our life, and I think we get wrapped up in our own woes and oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to spend $200 on that Christmas present, and we forget sometimes that there's people out there that are just looking for a piece of dirt to sleep on.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's where things are. And I should probably mention, too, that one of the things that happens with your work, and you can elaborate on this, is that the money from your books is going to help this organization, right?
Right. 100% of the profits is going to help it at 100%. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So for those people that are, you know, wondering, it's this is something that Jean is not only created to help people in these days and in these times, and to reestablish their DNA, not just on a physical level, but really on a soul level, on a spiritual level. But not only is it going to help you that way, but then the money is then going into this other area to help people get education, to help these kids have a home, have a place that they can start to grow and develop and have a life from for themselves as well. And so I can imagine the impact that it's having and how that's grown.
Right.
From the
glyphs. The glyphs also, they don't just pull out the negative things. When they put in, the glyphs are worded, each one has a program to it, and it will remove fear, and it will replace that like with self-confidence, with love, with compassion. So as it's pulling the negative out, it's filling it with light, and on that light is coming all these other positive elements. And as that light heals the body, we are part of the earth, so it's also healing the earth. And there's also one glyph to heal others remotely. I have one of the glyphs where you can take the glyph, cut it out, and you write on the name of the person that you want to help, and it will send healing energy to that person. One a day, like first day it will help remove fear. The next day it will help remove anger. The next day it will remove sadness. It's very subtle, and it takes a certain amount of time. For 6 weeks. Every day it will do something to help that individual. And then after 6 weeks, if you feel there's more needed, now, of course, you do want to ask permission of the soul. If you can't do that with dowsing, you just do it through your intention, that if it's agreeable with the soul of this individual, because you can never overcome somebody's free will. You have to always ask permission of the soul. And I have seen the difference in people that it makes. It makes a tremendous difference. It takes time, but it really can make a difference to help your loved ones.
And I think that is so important. I'm glad you brought that up about free will, because people forget that piece when you're trying to work to help somebody else, or even when we're working on ourselves. Sometimes we haven't always looked deeply enough to realize we might have an inner conflict going on there that might be minimizing something. But I love that you're bringing up the aspects of healing the earth, because I really would love to have you talk about that a little bit more. Here we are. People have a lot of questions right now, right? We have these gateways opening up. We have these energies that are shifting us into new dimensions. And how are, for example, some of the glyphs that you have, how are those going to work with that, or
They help through us being healed. I also do have one glyph that will heal the earth. There's one of the glyphs that I tell people they can have it laminated and wear it, put a hole and wear it around their neck, and it will send out healing energies to the earth and to the people of the earth to free them from the bondage that is holding them back. And so I realized that wasn't the answer, so I actually had some little pendants made in Bali with little seashells on, and I had them empowered to help heal the earth, that with each beat of the heart of the person wearing the pendant, it would send out healing messages and energy to the people of the earth and to fill the earth with peace and love and healing.
And that is just amazing. I mean, it's just a very, very important thing. I do have a question coming in, Jean, which I think is really good, from our chat room, and this is from Emerald Rose 7, and she's asking, so why can't we just manifest the healing, bring in the energy and heal? Why do we need symbols or more focus?
The symbols are like a stepping stone. so many times we all have the power to heal ourselves. We actually don't need glyphs, but it's just that people don't believe that yet. They need a little stepping stone. Some of people out there may be at that point, but so many do not know how. They just don't know how. They could not say, for example, they could not say, okay, I now transition any parasite within my body. They don't realize they can do that. They don't realize they could say, I now transition any toxic matter within my body. And so the glyphs are like a stepping stone, helping that person get to that point, helping them to heal themselves. And
I think, too, we're very distracted as human beings a lot of times. You know, most people have a very, very difficult time just sitting down and focusing without letting their mind wander in the slightest bit. And
You're right.
And so every little piece that our mind wanders, you know, we look at today, for example, you know, there's a lot of people, they'll listen to something, they'll listen to a teleseminar, for example, but while they're listening to that teleseminar, they're reading something else, and they have a chat going on in Facebook, and they're answering an email, and they get a phone call in. There's no way your energy can be focused when you're doing
Right. The glyph can be doing the work.
Right.
The glyph can be working while you're sleeping. You put the glyph under your liver or on the bottoms of your feet, and while you're sleeping, it is doing all this work. Sometimes it works so powerfully that you can feel it drawing things out of your body. And you're right, you just cannot focus long enough to sit there and visualize all these things that we're trying to do, especially like if you're trying to rebuild an organ. Who can sit there and meditate and visualize as much time as it takes to do that?
Right, because eventually sometime you have to get up and use the bathroom, maybe get something to eat, have a drink of water, these types of things. And I think that's some of the value with working with glyphs when you're asleep, and it's helping you align to this elevated energy that we have coming in, for example, and it is making these clearings so that when you wake up, and this is an important thing I find in elevating our lives, is to wake up and be in a good place when you wake up, as opposed to waking up and being angry or being cold or something else. Right. And what happens, and I know I have little symbols that I keep around, or pictures, or, for example, with feng shui, you know, I've got my selenite on my desk here, and I've got my bamboo plant here for things, and just looking at those things, you know, it's not that I couldn't go, okay, I'm going to bring money into my life, or I'm going to clear the negativity out, but just looking at those things serves as a trigger to remind me to connect with spirit, or to create an automatic connection. We were discussing this last week with Bob Burns of creating these little subtle triggers of reprogramming the mind, so that every time you see something or you do something like put your index finger and your thumb together, you've got a positive association with it. And so I think there's a similar aspect like that. It's a matter of the amount of focus and time is humongous without some of these things working already for us or boosting what we're doing, because we're human.
Right. I wanted to say that right now, in order for as many people to get healing as before the shift, I've got the e-book for Unlocking the Power of Glyphs available for just $2. It's a $25 book, and I've got it just for $2 because I want everybody to have the healing that this can bring regardless of their financial situation. And they can get that through my website, which is holygroundfarm.org/book. Now, the printed manuals are also available. Of course, both the books are available on Amazon. but I've got them available at a really good price on the website. And for those who are interested in the printed manuals right now, I've got a great deal at $45 for the two of them, and that's cheaper than you could get it on Amazon. These are powerful, powerful glyphs here in the book.
And we really appreciate I have to emphasize, I mean, $2, that's like nothing. That's
right. Oh, and I tell you, that has really, one of the reasons I put an ad on Facebook and found myself selling so many books in other countries. My book, Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, is now in about 38 countries of the world. I just found out I have 2 books in China, and I thought, wow, and Russia and Saudi Arabia, who would have dreamed somebody in Saudi Arabia would have bought one of these books? But Turkey, Egypt, it has really kind of blown my mind how many have bought them. And, of course, they're buying the e-books because of the shipping. But the reason I had the price so low is because there were so many people in the Philippines and South America and Egypt that wanted the books and really don't have a lot of money. They're going to the library to do work on the computer or do their printing, and so I wanted them to have a chance to have the opportunity for the healing from these glyphs.
And that's fantastic. So, yeah, absolutely a steal on that for the e-book version. And for people that are looking at that, I mean, you can print that out. You can still use the glyphs. It's still all there for you. I did type the address into chat there, and I wanted to jump back. I noticed in here that one of our people in our chat room here was talking about going back to just not having the motivation to do anything. And it's not that they don't know how to do things, but they just don't have the motivation. And that kind of comes back to the parasite aspect that's affecting the motivational level, I would think.
Yes, it actually could be a combination of many of them. That just takes away your reason for wanting to move forward. And I think using the glyphs, and I encourage them to use all of those emotional healing ones, the sadness and the grief. We don't know what we're holding inside of ourselves. And as I said before, the more you use them, you really awaken. You really awaken to your purpose. And that would help that motivation. It's just kind of like the aha experience.
Mhm. And I've got another chatter in here as well that is talking about making a comment, enlightening, and they had to just leave for the evening, but they had made a comment that in prayer, emotion is the main element, and you want to feel with all your heart and then ask for what you're looking for and put the intent out there. And I think that's important because when our emotions are not in a good space and we're coming from these negative emotions of fear and things, it is, again, creating that block. So it's like you can sit down and pray, but if you're praying from fear as opposed to praying from clarity, you're going to have very different effects. Right.
Now, in the book, each glyph has instructions how to use it, and it also has a prayer or affirmation that goes with it. And I do say in there, if you may change it and you may create your own prayer, but that prayer or intention helps give the glyph more power because it puts your thoughts and your prayers and your intention into the energy of the glyph. And some people said they just like to sometimes sit and read the prayers in the book before they go to bed. That's fine. Now, some people, I was contacted by 2 people who said this book would make a great workshop. Would you be interested in that? And, of course, I never thought of a workshop. And so they ended up purchasing a box of books at half price, and they had workshops, and they really turned it into a very profitable little, it was benefiting all the other people they had in the workshops, and yet it was benefiting them. And so these were healers, and they are also dowsers. There is something in the book, a dowsing has a little part on how to dowse and figure out which glyphs you need. And they would also teach a little bit of dowsing, and it really gave a little win-win-win situation for them. So if there's anybody out there who is a healer, and that would be somebody in this country that would be able to, the shipping would not be prohibitive. It was a tremendous opportunity, and I eventually had 4 people come forward and ask to workshop the books, and it worked out very well.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. I may have to keep that in mind when I'm setting up my 2013 tour.
Right.
And have some fun with that. I do some different healing modalities myself, and and that definitely is always valuable. Like I said, and part of what I do, of course, is the integrated development. So it's bringing in different components to create that more complete result in there. And
well, the first woman who wrote me and asked me about that, and I said, well, she wanted 10 or 15 books. I said, could you go 16? That's a box, and it's easier to ship. And she said, okay, but it may take me a year to move them. Within a couple of weeks, she said, send me another box of books. And so it was just really a great situation. I think she's on her 3rd or 4th box of books.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, let me repeat that name of that website. That's Holy Ground Farm, just as it sounds, HOLYGROUNDFARM.org. And the first part of the website tells about what we do with the children. And then /book will take you to where the glyph books can be purchased.
And if people scroll down to the bottom of the page there, it's also got a link there for the Healing Glyph page, it looks like.
Right.
On there, which goes in, and it's got the options for both unlocking the power of glyphs as well as the sacred symbols of light in there. So,
yeah, down the bottom, I think, is the $2 book, $2 ebook offer.
Okay. Yeah, and I was just kind of looking on there. I wasn't quite seeing it completely on the $2 offer there by the book or the ebook offer.
Down where the ebook is. It'll be on the one for unlocking the power of glyphs.
So I'm going to actually put this into the chat, this link here, so that people can get right to that, and then that'll get them right to the $2 offer.
Now, of course, it's also available on Amazon.
For those people who definitely want to shop Amazon and get other things.
Right. So you get the free shipping if you
But that $2 deal is really amazing. Now, Jean, is there anything that you can do while we're on the lines? Because at this moment I don't have anybody calling in with questions. But
okay,
I've got, for example, Emerald Rose in the chat room saying that she has a hard time, as many do, letting go. And I think there's some different things, and I think we all kind of struggle with that a little bit, and we're kind of being forced into that letting go process right now with all this opening that we have going on vibrationally.
Right. That's fear. Fear, like fear of not having enough, fear of doing without. Fear is the whole situation. I want to explain how, for me, I never donated money to anything. I'd always walk past anybody that was asking for anything. I've always been one my fear controlled my life. I mean, I was so fearful that when I graduated from high school, my parents offered to pay for my college education, and I turned it down because I was afraid I would have to speak in front of people. I married the first man who asked me because I was afraid of living alone. And so I've always been very stingy because I had this fear of insecurity and fear of not having enough. But due to using the glyphs, I have become more able to give. And when this Glorious Being Center, they were trying to raise $500,000 for the construction of an orphanage. We took $40,000 from Holy Ground Farm and have pledged it. And I myself personally am going to pledge $50,000 from my IRA. I could never have done that years ago. I could never have done that. But now I know that whatever I'm here to do in my life, the universe will provide me what I need. I will always have enough. And so once you keep removing more and more and more of what's holding you back, all of a sudden you don't need to worry about you letting go is not a problem. It's not a problem at all.
And Emerald Rose is typed in here. I think we are fearful. We think we need to make it happen as opposed to letting something happen, for example. And we have that tendency to hold on tight and try to keep our hands on it.
And try to control things. Right.
To control things. We're so afraid of losing things that we don't even realize that we're not losing something. It's something that's not even good for us. It's something we should be, taking and tossing out, like the garbage.
Right, right. Oh, yeah, I get that all the time in my channeling. Is you need to clear things out. You need to get rid of things. You need to let go, and it's been an issue with me too. I mean, get rid of some old clothes, and I can't believe the stuff I've hauled off and taken over to the thrift shops. I mean, there's things I probably could sell, but I'm just not even going to bother. I just take it over, and I've got a whole garage full of power tools that my ex-husband, who's moved to Peru, has left behind. And I was just thinking, I'm going to call Habitat for Humanity and say, come on over here and load up your truck, because I can't use these things. They've been sitting there, and I can't use them, and they need to go. They need to go.
I've got friends that'll probably be there at that Habitat waiting for you.
Right.
Waiting to get them and waiting to take them in, both.
Right.
Actually, Romelia in our chat room just put in there that she has bought the ebook. Awesome. She says awesome. And Emerald Rose is talking, ego, ego, ego. That's what causes us to hold on. And it's true.
Oh, yeah.
It really does cause us to hold on, and that's that tendency. And yet, when we do let go and we do open up, we create so much more space for the good stuff. That's when Spirit can really get in and do the work. That's when it's like, until we clear that out, we're blocking ourselves from receiving the blessings. There's no room to receive. And when we clear it out, when we've got the room to receive the really awesome stuff. I've got a caller in here that I'm going to bring on the line, Jean. It looks like they've got a question for you.
Okay.
Caller's coming in from area code 619, and you are live on the air.
Hello there.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very good. I was wondering, is there a particular glyph that's good for removing anger? That's one of my major issues. And also, will you be doing a general clearing or healing today?
There is a glyph for anger. And am I going to be doing a general clearing? No, I let the glyphs do the work, because what I help people do is heal themselves. Okay. But in that first book, the one that I've got the $2 special, there is a glyph for anger. And I want to tell you, this is kind of amusing. My son, he believes it, but he doesn't. He doesn't want to try them. But he opened the book, and he just touched that page that had the glyphs for anger. And the feeling he got shocked him so much, he pulled his hand back, that it was pulling stuff out already just when he touched the page. It started pulling stuff out of him.
Amazing.
Right.
I'm definitely going to listen to it. I tuned in kind of late, so I'm going to definitely listen into the archive of the show. It sounds fascinating.
Mhm.
It really has been, and in case you didn't catch it, Jean has the ebook available for her book, Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, and it's available for $2. The money does go to her organization, the Holy Ground Farm organization. And if you look at the chat area, you'll see the link for that in there.
That's very reasonable. It's very reasonable.
$2
The only time I've ever heard the word glyph
you can
used was in relation. The only time I've heard the word glyph used is in relation to astrological symbols or something, I think.
And we have so many symbols that have been given that represent divine power, divine energy that have been there all throughout time, really. I mean, the whole universe, the whole creation has been based on signs and symbols and glyphs.
That's true what he said. Those astrological symbols, they are glyphs. I had never thought of that before, but you're right, they are.
Exactly. Thank you. I'll stay on the phone and listen to the rest of the show. It's very informative.
Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I want to share a testimonial I received from someone. This man I had given, he gave me a ride to Asheville. I live about 60 miles from Asheville, and I had to have my car towed there to be repaired, and I needed a ride to pick it up. And he was a man from church, and he gave me a ride there. And he, I gave him a copy of the book as a gift for thanking him, to thank him. And he called me the next day, and he said, "This is rather embarrassing to talk about." He said, "This man was in his 50s, or is in his 50s." And he said he had been impotent for years because he used street drugs, crystal meth, it's called, crystalline methamphetamine or whatever it's called. And he said it had damaged him so bad that it had destroyed his ability to sexually function. He said, there's a glyph in the book called Repairing Damaged Nerve Bundles that I was given, and I didn't know why I was given it. But he said he used that glyph, and he felt a soft, warm energy, and then he went to sleep. The next morning, he said it was back all the way. He said, I felt like a 20-year-old. So there are glyphs in the book, in the first book, to repair damaged nerves. There are books in the second glyphs in the second book to resolve neurological problems and resolve other damaged nerve problems that are very effective. And I had one experience I want to share. We adopted a dog from the Humane Society. And we found that any time we would take her in the car, she would get sick and start throwing up. She would get car sick every time. And I tried one glyph after another, and then finally I asked for guidance. And I was told she had brain damage from dehydration and starvation as a puppy. And that I could repair that with a glyph if I knew the place that it was damaged. And I said, well, how do I find that out? Do I dowse? And I was told, well, I will give you that if you ask, which shows that it's always important to ask. So I said, okay, I'm asking, and I was told it was her cerebellum. So I created a glyph to heal her cerebellum. We put it on her, and on a dog, the crown chakra is right between the ears. So we put it on her at night. And I could tell when she first looked, I could see something was going on inside of her head. You know, she was looking, her eyes were kind of funny. We put it on every night for 2 weeks, and she was about 90% better. We put it on for another 2 weeks every night, and that dog has not gotten car sick again, and it's been 5 years since then.
Wow.
So it has healed her damaged brain.
That's amazing. And, you know, these are the types of stories that you really just have to get those experiences for yourself. You really have to get there, try them, work with them, and I look at that and I think, here again for $2, let's hear you can't buy Viagra for that, right? For the for the guy that went through what he went through, and you can't go see a vet certainly for that amount of money, and most of them wouldn't have tried to do anything or wouldn't have felt like they could have done anything. And now, I had, for example, somebody else in the chat room that earlier was mentioning about a cat that was very scattered in its energy, very nervous and hard to settle down, and they had been using some Reiki work and having a lot of people send Reiki work to that cat, but it didn't seem like it was having a very big impact on it. Is there a sign or a glyph or one that's in your book that would work for that nervous energy for an animal like that?
I would suggest to use the detox. I had someone who had sent me a testimonial. They were working with a dog that had kidney problems, and they didn't want to take it to the vet because the vet had told them last time that it needed to be put to sleep. And so I would have used one for bacteria and viruses, but they used or felt guided to use the one on the kidney, and that would be the for a human opposite the navel. So I was in the book has the charts where to put them on animals, and they put the detox one on the kidney, and it healed the dog. And kidney problems are so common in pets, probably due to the toxins in the food that we give them. And these glyphs, there's the one for detoxing. I would suggest that because the problem, I believe, in that cat is toxic matter in the body. And I would put it on the crown chakra too, because toxic matter is affecting the brain there.
Okay, so there you go for my chatters that were talking about the cat earlier, in regards to that of where to put it and the glyphs that can be used for that.
Right. There's glyphs that can also remove the plaque from the arteries in the heart too.
What about, for example, and I'm just throwing this out there while we're on animals, what about an animal like a cat that has a tendency to do a lot of chewing on things and eating like everything? It's just...
That's
so
anxiety.
Nervous.
That's real anxiety. That's fear. And there's also one for anxiety in there, and I would use them both. That animal is very fearful, and it's taking out its fear. It's anxiety, and I would also do a detox on that. I would use a detox on every animal, regardless. But that's fear and that's anxiety. Chewing.
And that's what I felt. That chewing, it's that nervous, fearful energy in there.
Right.
And this is such great insight. And as we look at this, I find this is so important, again, as we come back around and we look at it on a universal level and this bigger level of things, that it's important to heal ourselves. It's important to get rid of these fears that are inside of us. It's important to get rid of these anxieties. It's important to have that healthy DNA in there. And I find, too, that when we're in those healthier states, that we can't be as controlled by people. We can't, you got a lot of conspiracy theorists out there that worry about things, that worry about implants, things like that are being done to them. And they say that that's being done through parasites, actually. And the more that we do this, I mean, the power that's behind that, we could actually think about if we became healthy, we probably wouldn't have incidents like we had this morning in Connecticut.
Right. And you're right. If that's an implant, possibly in that person who did that, and there's also a glyph to remove the implants. But this person that did that, I felt that they're being controlled by something. There's something very seriously wrong. And glyphs like that, I mean, I think they could help people that are in prisons. I mean, people do terrible things because they're hurting so bad inside. They are full of all this negative energy and all this. And if they could get help, locking them up or putting them to death does not do anything. I mean, it does not do anything. Even if you kill someone, you put them in the electric chair, okay, the body is gone. That there's still a very angry spirit there. So that accomplishes nothing. So it needs to be healed. All of these situations where people are children who abuse animals and things like that, these are children that need healing.
Absolutely. And I think, gosh, what an amazing experiment that would be. I'm just thinking to work on people that are in
it
prison,
would, and it right, or even right. Also, people in the hospitals that are sick, and this bacteria that's eating people up. I've got a glyph there that will destroy bacteria and viruses, and I intend to have the time come someday when the medical people will be more open to something, because the power behind these glyphs is God, and you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
God works miracles every day. We look to a higher power, and over again we see this. When we turn something over to a higher power, by whatever name you call that, that miracles happen in our life.
Right.
Every single day. I've had somebody mentioning also in here about depression, and I've known other people who have dealt with some pretty strong depression, and I think in these times, these days, where people are feeling very hopeless, I deal with clients. And, I have people that'll call me, for example, for the first time, and they're like, I haven't had a job in 2 years. I've been trying, I've been interviewing, I've been doing this, and my life is just depressing now because, I have a hard time getting out of bed because it's just I try and nothing's working. What glyphs would you suggest for those people?
There's a glyph there for sadness and grief and depression. But again, when it comes to the emotional healing ones, I would use them all. The one for fear is part of it too. There's one for heartache and fear of abandonment. And sometimes if you're open to reincarnation, there can be things left over from past lives that occurred that this will pull that out as well. But there's about 6 or 7 glyphs that will remove these negative emotions. And depression is often a combination of several of them, of fear of abandonment, of heartache. When I went through my divorce a couple of years ago, I took 5 of them. Now, I recommend starting with just 1 or 2 at a time because you're moving energy. But after you use them for a while, you can use more. But I took 5 of them and piled them on top of each other and taped them over my solar plexus, and it was amazing how much it helped, because even when divorce is something that really has to happen or a good thing, it's still very painful. So I would definitely use them all.
And even when it is that conscious process, and one of our chatters also typed in that a lot of people have that fear of being abandoned, for example, but they don't acknowledge it or say it, or it may not even be conscious for them. And that's another way that the glyphs can be so useful, is on those things where we have stuff happening, but we don't know exactly what it is.
Or may not remember. We may have shoved it into a little dark space and blocked out the memory of it.
Absolutely. We suppress it, whether it's something that got triggered in our childhood, whether it got triggered in a past life, whether we don't even realize that we have it there. All of a sudden, we're dealing with it. And I can imagine for people who have some gifts, for example, that are empathic, because they're dealing with so many other people's emotions. And we have a lot of light workers out there. I know we have a lot of light workers that listen to this show. Romelia keeps throwing in things here, by the way. And Glyphs can repair damaged nerve bundles. Wow, this is cool. And this is important for the light workers as well, because they're having such an impact on so many lives. Or the empaths, when I'm empathic, for example, and one of the things I've learned as an empath is when you get these feelings, you have to really have your own self cleared, for one, and then a lot of times you're sending that healing energy back out. You're taking something in, it's being transformed, and you're sending the light back out. You're clearing it and turning it to the universe to deal with and take care of. And
right.
So, you're having these big impacts on other people. So that would be another important piece of it is for light workers. These can be very powerful things, because as we're working on people and dealing with people that are needing our assistance,
right,
we
and
need to be clearing their stuff out.
The nice thing about the glyphs is you can use them to work on people. A lot of healers use them, and Reiki people, they can use them and leave them free. It's not labor intensive. You put the glyph on the name of the person on the glyph, and then you just go about and do something else. You don't have to be right there with it. And I have one glyph. It is not in the book, one of the books, but it's on the website, and you'll see one. They're called "In Memory of Robin." My first husband committed suicide a couple of years ago, and I felt very sad for him that he'd never been able to get his life together. And so I asked what I could do, and so I was told to create a glyph, and it had a long list of things that it would do, that it would send a team of spiritual beings to assist his soul, that it would clear the area where he died of any negative energy, and it had a list of about 6 things that it would do. And so that's kind of a freebie out there. Just look at that, In Memory of Robin, if you know anybody who has committed suicide or died in a tragic way. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to know whether they really need it or not, because the worst it can do is nothing. And it may be helping. It may help rescue a soul out there that's very tormented. And that happens sometimes, that a soul will be in a tormented condition.
Mm. So this is definitely for somebody who's in that very deep, dark kind of space.
Uh-huh. Right,
then,
right. Mm-hmm.
That space where they we should have had this being worked on with that guy that went in the school this morning, right?
Right, absolutely. Even remotely,
only he had known about this.
Well, you see, even if you have someone like that, who a parent can see that their child or whatever, a friend can see that this person has a problem, you can just go ahead and work on it remotely and with permission from their soul. And I have never had a soul deny permission. You can douse that, or you just do it intentionally. But I have never had a soul refuse permission. I certainly can't do any harm.
I agree with that. I think that, it's very rare, because usually when it's the conscious or the ego or something else that might be blocking the help, but the soul usually does not block the help because it knows what it really needs in
right.
there. Now, another big issue, and I'm hoping that you can tie this in and shed some light on it for people, and it may sound materialistic for some people, but it really isn't, because our materialistic issues stem from things that are happening in our emotional and DNA field. And that would be in these days and times. People are fearful about money, not having enough, not having the resources they need. And you touched on that a little bit earlier. What glyph would they be looking at?
There is a glyph. There's a glyph in there that removes anything that is blocking your abundance. And I have had interesting things. People contacted me. One man wrote and said after he got the book, he had a dream where he was told to take a page of those glyphs and put them under his computer. Myself, I was told to take the page of glyphs and put them in a document protector, and I put them under my pillow. So and one man at the church swears that it works, that he has one in his wallet, and he said he's always got money in his wallet. He said it really works, and he's been using that for a couple of years now. So there is one that will remove blocks to abundance, because sometimes, let's say we took a vow of poverty in a past life, that could really mess up our lives here.
Well, and we get a lot of people around us, and people aren't necessarily even conscious of it, that they're operating in a deprivation attitude. You know, they're coming, instead of coming from an abundance attitude, they're coming from a space of being deprived.
Right.
Feeling like they need to live in that deprivation, as you say, for one reason or another, whether they feel like they need to sympathize with other people or souls out there, or, you know, whether they have issues having something when there's people that are needing orphanages and things like that.
Right, and this is another reason to use those glyphs to remove the negative emotions, because I tried to program as many different things, and they will remove the I am not worthy, I do not deserve this, and they will remove those, and I put them in as phrases, because sometimes I would have to want to remove things that there was no one word for it, or I can't do this, you know, and I always fail at this. And so those are programmed into the glyphs to remove that I am not worthy, because I am not worthy is going to block you every time, and fear is probably the biggest block to abundance.
Mhm. I think absolutely. You know, there is so much there with that. There's just so much.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of different emotions that come into it. Just like with the fear of public speaking, which is a really big fear, there are many different types of fear that affect that. That's a multi-level thing. And the more you remove different types of fear of embarrassment, fear of losing control, fear of ridicule, all these things come into play there. And so I have all these individual things programmed into it. There's also in the book a few pages on emotional thought field therapy, where people can tap on different meridians to remove different negative emotions from their body. Many ways that we can help ourselves with these.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Is there are so many just different aspects, and one of the things too, and you have provided, you said in your books, some prayers to go with these, but also, you know, as we've talked about, it's easy for affirmations, if they're not phrased right, to not have an impact, for example. And this is another reason that we want to look at the glyphs, that we want to look at the signs and the symbols, because our mind takes it in through both sides of the brain. It's not like we've got to make sure it's phrased right, or we don't have to say it in reverse or things like that. Not that those things aren't useful, because they are. But with a glyph, it's clear.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mistaking it. It's kind of like it's a universal language. So it doesn't matter what culture or what language you speak, it's going to register the same for everybody. It's universal. It's universal. And so the good thing about working with that is that, here again, the brain's not having to take the time to process or decipher. It's just getting it direct.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's coming straight in from source, straight in from just that direct area. So I see money in there, typing some things, and money definitely. I encourage you. Tell somebody you want this book for Christmas, and they can. Spirituality doesn't make you poor; it should be making you rich, actually.
Right. Well, I also recommend that first book, Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, makes an excellent present for someone you know that you love, that you would like them to be free of what is holding them back. Mm-hmm. Because and oftentimes that happens. We have a child or a friend, and we think, if they could just let go of what's keeping them from moving forward.
And this is so true. It's so true. And, here again, I'm seeing in the chat a lot of people dealing with the money issues, like it might make us rich, but it doesn't bring us money. Money, again, keep in mind, is really just a form. It's just an exchange. And we put those blocks up there. That's a parasite that's in there, for example. Put that block up there that if we're doing spiritual work, we can't take money, or we can't have money, or we can't have an abundance of money. But we do need it. We do need it to live, and that comes into the things you've been talking about throughout the night of helping us learn how to receive, helping us remove those barriers in there so that we can receive, because actually the more that we receive, the more money we receive. It's just like you. The more money that you receive from your books, the more work that can be done.
Right. And I think a lot of times the churches have kind of drummed that into some people, that there's some sort of a great thing in being poor, and poverty is good for you, which is total nonsense. And I think that's because they just want more donations, I guess, but I don't know. But we often put up those blocks, and you hear people say that all the time. I don't have enough money to buy this. I don't have enough money. Or when I get more money. And those are very limiting negative statements we need to remove from our vocabulary. And just rather than say I don't have enough money, just I choose not to buy that right now. And see yourself as having the money and knowing that the universe will care for you. It's a matter of trust. You need to trust in the divine, because you will be cared for as you believe. You need to believe that you are loved and will be taken care of.
Absolutely. And I have one question I want to get in here before we have to think about closing this down, and I give you one last chance to give all the website stuff again and things, and that is for those people out there that have some more spiritual, maybe more of a religious foundation. I think that some of those people have felt like that does not coincide with what has been taught, that it might conflict with God or spirit or divine. Now, I know you've brought this in through divine presence, but what can you say to the people out there? I mean, because it's kind of gotten a bad rap in a lot of ways, because people separate it out instead of realizing that, hey, those stained glass windows are basically signs and symbols too. Those things hanging in the temples are signs and symbols as well.
Right. So I think you're asking what is it, when they're kind of conflicting ideas regarding, like, for example, the poverty thing. I think the basic thing to remember is that God loves us all and wants us to be happy. He would not put any limitation. We have free will. And in free will, God doesn't say, okay, you've got free will, but you can't have any money. You need to be poor. God doesn't say you have to suffer. That's not so at all. And sometimes we are given that impression by some leaders of some churches through their own misunderstanding of things. that we don't have to suffer, and if we choose to suffer, that's our choice. But God does not want us to suffer. At no point, when God gave us free will, He didn't mean say, okay, you have free will, but go ahead and suffer and starve. That it didn't work that way. No.
And money's not evil. It's what we do with it. And as you said, He wants us to be an abundant spirit, divine presence, whatever term you want to use. Source wants us to be in abundance. I mean, that's how we help people. And we've been programmed that we shouldn't have these things or that it is in conflict when it really isn't. I mean, it is a gift. It is a gift of divine source, and it's no different than being given other things that are not money-based. So I think this is important, and that these glyphs, most of the ones that have been in society, really the ones that have been around all throughout times, our planets are glyphs, our solar system, I mean, all of these things, everything that creation is founded on, really came from that divine source. Right, absolutely. It really did. Well, I would love for you to go ahead one more time, plug in there. There's the $2 option, plug in your website addresses for people so they know this is, for those people that have been listening, again, this is a fantastic gift to give people here upon the holidays, or to give to yourself. I believe very strongly in giving to yourself. Right. Charity begins at home. and you're not only helping yourself or helping somebody else or giving them something interesting and different and fun, but also giving to this organization of Jean's, and I'm going to go ahead and let her plug that again. Okay, the website is Holy Ground Farm, HOLYGROUNDFARM, just like it sounds, .org/book. And there we have at the bottom you'll find the ebook for $2 for Unlocking the Power of Glyphs. And also, for those who are interested in purchasing the manuals, we have a special, the $60 special, for the two of them for $45 plus shipping. Now, that's, I think their shipping is $7 here in the United States. It would cost more to other countries. And it's also available on Amazon.com. And that's perfect. And again, she's got the two books out, Unlocking the Power of Glyphs and Sacred Symbols of Light. The Sacred Symbols of Light does deal even more specifically with particular physical things that are going on. The organization, again, is Holy Ground Farm, and that is going to help children in need in other countries. They've worked with helping to get orphanages going, helping to get education going there. So a lot of great work. It's one of those gifts that continue to keep on giving, to keep on working there. And I really appreciate everybody who's kind of jumped in here tonight because it's been very useful. And Jean, again, I want to thank you for taking the time, coming into the show, kicking off my series. You're the first of my 3 people who are speaking about how the vibrations and the energies are being raised right now and how their work plays into it and the importance of this work. And again, as we look at this process of emergence that we're going through with the gateways opening, the glyphs and the symbols have been noted as the first piece to opening the gateways. And that's what we've been experiencing here between December 3rd and the 12-12-12. These are the openings of the gateways. They're the beginning parts of it. Right. And so very, very active part in helping us make this progression that's going on. Okay. So thank you very, very much, Jean, for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much, Jessie. take advantage of the very, very generous offers that you've put forth and that you have available for them to take advantage of.
Okay.
And as we start to wind down here, Jean gave you all that information on her things. I just want to do some reminders here as I start to close down the show tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming in. As you know, the 2012 Compassion Tour is over, but it won't be long before I'm going to be starting the 2013 Compassion Tour. And if you want to find out more about the work I'm doing with Compassion, certainly what you can do is look there at the bottom of the show description, and you're going to find you can join with me on Facebook either as Jessie Ann Nichols George. You can also join in my Facebook page at facebook.com/activatingcompassion. You can check out my blog at getyourblisson.tumblr.com. That's a really great thing. I am in the process of revising my website right now, so I apologize. I went in today and found out that a bunch of the pages are down right now, so I'm rapidly scrambling to relocate that to a better location and get it up and running that'll be more functional and more user-friendly, so I appreciate your patience. You're always welcome to email me as well at lifeofbliss@q.com. I believe that's also at the bottom of the show description. Keep in mind, as a listener, either live or in the archives of Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, you have that opportunity to take advantage of my unlimited email coaching at 90% off. That brings it down to a mere $450, and that's unlimited email coaching for an entire month at that rate. And if you take out more time, the rates go down from there. You can also get 75% off the quantum energy work that has the unlimited email coaching included in it. And keep in mind, this is based on availability. I only have room for a couple of those slots at a time. So those that are trying to follow their path, develop their dreams, create and manifest things, all those different things, whatever you're working on, we can work with that and that work there. And don't forget that we've got several shows here on Main Street Universe throughout the week. We have on Wednesdays Daniel and Janice. They're always bringing different interesting topics in. Always got a lot of interesting things happening there. Kevin has moved on to Mondays. He's working with his Horizon Oracle Journeys. If you like readings, if you like to just have somebody give you a little insight about things happening in your life, Kevin Baird has got that going on. Zariana show, that's done with Evan Paz. That's on Thursdays. Usually starts around 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So hang in there with that. Now, next week I have coming in, I've got Tina Irwin. She actually studied with the Casey ARE Institute and has written some books. We're going to be shifting the show, and it's going to be on earlier than normal. So instead of being at midnight Eastern Standard Time next week, that's going to be on at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is on the 21st. So Friday the 21st, we've got a lot of big energy happening with the 12-21-12 openings and shifts. We've got also the winter solstice going on at that time. So lots of things, and we're going to be bringing some amazing insights and energies in with Tina Irwin. So definitely don't want to miss that, because she's going to be the second segment in those three here, and really opening and talking about what that all means, what this emergence is all about. And she brings a wonderful scientific background to things, so she likes to be able to explain things. And she's a retired Navy officer as well. So very, very interesting program that you're not going to want to miss. And again, don't forget to tell your friends to listen to this show with Jean Logan that's been all about glyphs and signs and symbols, and they can catch that in the archives. So I want to just close things out and say, this is Jessie Ann Nichols George. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I look forward to seeing you back here next week as we delve more into activating compassion, and as we look more at the emerging vibrations that are happening for us. Don't forget that if you enjoyed the show, share it with others. It's going to be available at the same link in our archives. If you missed any part of the show, come back in, listen to it in the archives. And I'm going to leave you tonight with that song, Yearning For, also known as Over and Over by Shemshai. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again next week right here on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. May you enjoy the rest of your weekend and have an amazing week.
And if I could see what makes me blind, I would soar to the edge of my mind and to touch what seems unreal, just to show you the way that I feel. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune, caught in a balance of sun and moon. Oh, deep inside, the light within, shining to show you it's here to begin. When all I have is all I need, I will soar to the edge of eternity. And we see it eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine. And we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, I bet you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. No summer. Time is still turning, the love is still burning, deep in your spirit.